How much would you pay for a chair in a video game? Actually, scratch that. Not a chair. You still have to make that. But a skin for a chair. How much would you pay? $1? $5? $10? $30? Well, you're in luck because now you can. Let's talk about it. G'day everybody, my name is Bloody Drongo and I am a veteran of the MMORPG Wurm Online, and I have been documenting the new era of this game under its current management and all of the associated news along with it, and it has been a wild ride, and we've got even more wild news for you in this video. And to start off with, we, as we mentioned at the start, have an incredible new addition to the in-game cash shop from the 25th of August, which you can see here. So they have added in the inviting wooden chair skin, which can be applied to a wooden chair item. So that's right, this is an in-game skin that is available to purchase in the cash shop. They've also made the alterations to the golden mirror being discounted from 8 silvers down to 15, and they've got a 50% discount ending on September 1st. But this is the one that we want to focus on because this is a new skin, which is always exciting for the game. And this is for a chair. This gets added to a chair in the game that you can sit on. It has no other function. It does nothing else. It only changes the appearance of that skin, and you can never remove it either. You can't apply it and then take it off and apply it another time. It's a one-time use item. That's okay in concept. However, the price point for this item is absolutely ludicrous in my opinion. It is priced at 12 in-game silver, 12 silver in Wurm currency. And to give you an idea of how much that is, if we go over to the cash shop, 10 silver coins in Wurm Online is approximately 1.3 silver each. So if you were to purchase this, it would cost you nearly 16 euros. In Australian dollars, that is nearly $30. So if I wanted to spend $30 on a chair, that's one chair. This isn't like a set of chairs. This is one chair. And guaranteed, if you're going to get one of these skins, you're probably going to want to, maybe do like a kitchenette area. You're going to need 4 chairs. And so for the price of 4 chairs, you know what instead you could buy? Baldur's Gate 3 for the price of 4 chairs. It is bizarre to me. This is totally bizarre. And one of the things that I haven't really seen anybody comment on is the fact that they've chosen specifically 12 silver. And the reason why that stands out to me, because this seems like it may be an attempt by Wurm to copy the common strategy that is very prevalent in mobile games and in some other MMOs to awkwardly price their in-game purchases to try and increase player spending. And so what that looks like is you'll often find that if there is an in-game purchase to be made using the in-game currency, you can't purchase the exact amount of currency that you need to purchase that item, which means that you're going to want to purchase more than you actually need, which is going to give you an uneven amount, which then you can't really necessarily use for other purchases in the future. So the fact that they've chosen 12 silver coins when you can either buy 10 or 20 silver, I don't know this, but I'm speculating that it may be an attempt at this predatory pricing strategy, and I'm not a fan of that at all. Hopefully this is just a misstep on the part of the Wurm team, misunderstanding their market and misunderstanding exactly the appetite for Wurm players. I really hope that players have not actually been purchasing this item and this skin in any kind of large amount, because I would hate to see this kind of strategy be rewarded. Personally, what I think would be much more reasonable is if you sold a set of, say, 4 skins in a pack that you could buy, in quotation marks, a pack, that then you can apply to a series of items and then have that priced at like 10 silver or something like that. I think that would be much more reasonable rather than charging $30, 16 euros for a chair. Is a single chair. It is just bizarre. And you know what the best part is? Some of you might be thinking, okay, Drongo, maybe it's a really nice chair though. Maybe this is like something that you're going to only want one of. Maybe it's like a throne, a grand throne that will dominate a space and be like a real spectacle. You're only going to want one of them, Drongo. You really don't think, the idea that you're going to want multiple of these is a bit silly. You're overreacting here, Drongo. You might be thinking that. Well, let me show you what this chair looks like. This $30 chair. In all of its glory. Wow. Wow. Holy. It is. Yeah. Like I said, I hope this is something that we see refined, and hopefully this is just an early teething problem. And I hope this is not something that continues on to the future, because this is a meme. It has to be a meme. It has to be a meme. It's madness to me. It's madness. But that's not the only news that we have to talk about. So let's move on from the way overpriced chair, in my opinion. And let's talk about something more positive, because there is some great news that has just come out yesterday, and that is a development update from Samul. The team has been super quiet since our last video. There hasn't been anything too much going on, but Samul posted this yesterday talking through a whole bunch of details for the upcoming Rift update, all of which looks reasonably good and positive. I think a lot of the changes that are proposed within this have been fairly well accepted by the community, and I personally, even though I don't do a lot of Rifts, I think they look good. I think they look reasonable, so I don't hate them. The other update here is a potentially really good one, which is the arrow bundles. So in Wurm at the moment, if you want to make and create a bunch of arrows to use in archery, you need to make every single individual arrow and improve them and enchant them all individually. And it is a hugely time-consuming process. And it just means that archery, especially for PvE, is just not a viable thing, because it's just not worth the time in preparing when you can just go stab something with a sword and you just needed to improve and make a sword instead of 40 odd arrows, which will maybe last you for an afternoon of hunting. I have seen some feedback around this update, because I think this is great. This is a fantastic quality of life adjustment, where you'll just have one bundle of arrows and you just enchant on the one bundle, and you just improve one bundle. You have to only improve one thing. I think that's a great change. Now, some of the feedback that I've seen has said that it's still only worthwhile doing this if you really don't care about your individual arrows, because adding them into a bundle gives a significant debuff to your ability to actually improve them and also enchant on them. And the scaling of that debuff means that it's actually less efficient and less time efficient than doing it individually, which is counterintuitive to, I think, the purpose of this. I haven't verified this feedback, but that is just what I've heard. So hopefully they get this idea into a good space where it is actually viable and it is a direct improvement to the game. And if that is the case, fantastic. This is really, really good. The other major update that they've announced in here is the introduction of resource nodes, particularly for foraging and botanizing, which will allow you to visually identify resources on tiles instead of them being kind of an ethereal, invisible thing that you're searching for randomly. You can actually visually look for something, which is a fantastic addition to the game. It will increase the immersiveness to the game, and it will also be a quality of life thing, whereas if you're looking for a piece of cotton or maybe some seeds, a healing cover or something like that, you'll be able to actively seek those things out without wasting loads and loads of time and doing hundreds of actions just to hope to try and get something from this pool. This is a great change. And it looks visually really, really nice, and it'll make the game feel a lot more kind of like populated and living, especially if this kind of stuff changes over time. I think this is going to be amazing. I'm really, really optimistic about this. If they manage to bring this live as it is described, I think this is great. I think this is a really, really, really positive change. And my only concern that kind of jumps out to me at the moment is, does the Wurm engine have the capability to be able to support, hundreds and potentially thousands of different individual rendered assets like this in the game world? Or are they going to have to scale it back? That's the only thing that kind of stands out to me, is like, oh, that might be a problem for the game engine. But provided they can address that problem, I'm totally on board with this. I think this is a fantastic addition. The other thing that they're looking to change is the action, the way that actions work, and being able to queue up actions and changing up how the toolbar works, the tool belt works, so that you can have all of your things on your tool belt as accessible items as your active item. Anything on your tool belt will be considered an active item, which means it can be used on a hotkey, a singular hotkey, to do any kind of action. If you can do it, it'll let you. And there's a bunch of different things in here that are nuanced, but all of them are incredibly powerful and incredibly good quality of life changes and stuff I'm super excited for. This is a really big step forward in the quality of life and the playability of the game, and I think it's going to reduce the amount of actions for the sake of actions. Like, I think one of the big problems that Wurm has, and this is something that a lot of new players will mention, and if you've watched Josh Strife Hayes' video about Wurm Online and the new player experience for that, there's a lot of doing things for the sake of doing things that add no value to the gameplay experience. And this is a notable step forward in actually changing that philosophy of just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff and just trying to hopefully improve the actual game experience. So I'm very positive about this. They've also got some graphics and client update improvements, which is all pretty exciting. Increasing the lighting, you can see the visual quality and the shadows and stuff. You can see the difference between these two pictures here, night and day, in terms of the shadow and the lighting between the two, like in the cave here and in between these buildings. And I mean, like, look at this. Like, it's so much better. So much better, these different screenshots. Like, well, I mean, to me, having played a lot, it looks substantially better. Maybe to other people, it's a little bit less obvious. I think it's really great. So anyway, then they talk a little bit about the development direction and things that are going to be done going forward. And overall, they do mention Goblin Camps before. And the one thing that I do walk away from all of this feeling like is cautiously optimistic. And the reason why I'm cautious is because we've seen a really big information dump post outlining the plan for Goblin Camps. And we saw that, I think it was last year. And we know now that that has been put on the back burner and reprioritized, and that's now hopefully coming at some point in the near future, maybe in next year. I really hope that the Wurm team is able to deliver on these, because really the community, I think, is desperate to see actual tangible forward momentum at the moment. And it is worth noting that the community's response to this particular post here has been overwhelmingly positive. There's people there giving some feedback and some criticism and that kind of thing, which is pretty normal. Not everybody's totally happy, but by and large, I think people are like, okay, cool, this is actually something good. after the last couple of months that we've had that we can hold on to, that maybe there's hope for everything that's going on. And I'm definitely, as somebody who has been a vocal critic of some of the decisions that have been made in the past few months, I'm definitely in a position here where I may have to hold my hands up and go, hey, you know what? I was wrong. If they can actually deliver on all of this stuff and actually make a good, really fantastic improvement in the quality of life and the content of the game, I will be the first person to put my hand up and say, I was wrong. I was wrong. So I'm really excited for this, but I just hope it doesn't end up being the same thing as with Goblin Camps, where they talk a big game, but they actually aren't able to bring it to fruition, and it just gets put on the back burner and gets pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I really, really hope that we will be able to see this happen, because it would be so good for the game. It was so good. And then finally, the last thing that we have to talk about is the current financial state for Wurm Online. Now, we do now have the press release about the Q2 performance of 2023 of Game Chest Group heading into Q3 now, and talking about how they closed out Q2. So you can find all of this on the forums. This will all be included in my YouTube description if you'd want to check this out yourself and go through all of these documents in your own time. For the sake of ease, because I don't speak Swedish, I'm just going to rely on the English translation for some of the information here and talk about some of the more notable things that are mentioned within this. Krista gives a bit of a blurb about, what they were doing, talking about how he assumed the CEO role on May 27, which, yeah, fair enough. Talking about how he's learned a lot about the game and a lot about the community and the work cultures of the employees, which is true. And talking about how they've updated the web shop and developed a brand new in-game shop, and these have created the basis for increasing sales. So overall, the financial position for Wurm or Game Chest Group as a whole at the moment is that net sales during the second quarter of 2023 amounted to 1.6 million Swedish krona, and Game Chest closes out Q2 with a negative operating result of negative nearly 300,000 Swedish krona. Which is weighed down by depreciation and goodwill. Group's EBITDA during Q2 amounted to Swedish krona minus 55,000, which is not a great place to be. This is pretty negative. There's a lot that you can dig into this, and realistically, there's not quite enough information to really draw any major conclusions here, especially with the little clarification that they make in the second part here, which is adjusting the EBITDA, and that is talking about how the fact that they are going into Q3 now of the financial year with without any more of these depreciation and goodwill costs, and that the Q3 is going to be more representative of the company's actual performances. And they've calculated that if they adjust the group's EBITDA for Q2 to be without this, then they would be at a profit of nearly 200,000 Swedish krona, which isn't a lot. That's a pretty small profit to be running. So I think this, it's going to be a very interesting thing to see what the Q3 financials are going to say now after this. I think that's, again, going to be the clearest indication of where the overall parent company for Wurm is going to be headed into the future. They say that for the next step into Q3, they're going to be concentrating on Wurm Online with optimizations to the graphics engine, game design, and quality of life updates, all of which we have just seen and talked about. They're also going to be expanding and marketing their range of sold silver coins by working with content creators and expanding the scope of use of the website. And they hope to reach more players like this. With the new content and marketing team, we will now also promote the game on social media to increase awareness of the game. So that's really interesting there, because as far as I'm aware, or as far as that has been made publicly available at the moment, there is not actually a content and marketing team for the game yet. I know this is something that they have been actively seeking and speaking to people about, but I don't think they've got anything locked in, and hopefully they can very, very soon, because if they're hoping to realize this stuff in Q3, they needed to have this done a month ago, realistically. So hopefully they can get that locked in, and I think realistically, there is actually a good place here for Wurm to make a big step forwards. I think I'm actually a cautiously optimistic that as long as Game Chess Group, Krista, and whoever has been kind of calling the shots in some respects within the game has learnt their lessons from some of the mistakes they've made early on in this process and this era, this new era of the game, there could be some really good foundations to build upon from here. And there is a big opportunity to win back over the community. And this type of like really high quality, really good, like player focused quality of life updates is a fantastic way to do that. And by making the quality of life of the game better, it's going to make it less of a chance and less of a hurdle for new players to bounce off, which means you're going to help player retention. So there's a lot of good things, and there's a lot of things to genuinely look forward to here. Now, one of the big question marks that I've been kind of paying attention to is the stock price for Game Chess Group, because let's not forget it is a publicly traded entity. So it is pretty relevant to kind of look at how the share price and the stock price behaves after these big announcements. And you can see here that after the announcement for this for their Q2 performance, there was a little bit of a spike in the share price there. Nothing huge, going up to 65 Swedish krona cents. I don't know what the increment is for Swedish krona, but 0.65 Swedish krona. Anyway, it has since dropped down to 0.59, which is where it's at the moment, which is a bit of a drop, and it is trending downwards. If we look at the year to date at the moment, this is here in February, where we do see it bottomed out at 0.35 Swedish krona. This is when Krista Elgrim and a larger consortium of other investors came on board and purchased a huge amount of shares for the company, millions of shares, and basically helped doing their capital round, raised a bunch of money, and that artificially inflated the share price. And I think realistically, from the calculations that I've done, Game Chess Group's actual share price is probably around 0.4, maybe a little bit lower. I think that's where their realistic price is actually at, what the value is. So I do think, in my opinion, this is a little bit overvalued still. And the big thing that's going to be very telling coming towards the end of the year and into in the start of the new year, it's worth noting that Krista and the other investors that came on at the start of the year bought in at that very, very low price of 0.35 krona. And that, if the share price falls close to that or goes below that at any point between now and the end of the year, that's definitely going to be a lot of pressure on Krista and a lot of pressure on them. And I think that's when, if it does get to that point, I think that could be when things start to get a little bit messy, because that's going to mean then that they are directly losing money. Now, all of these people that have put money in aren't in the business to lose money. This isn't a charity. It's a publicly traded company. They're doing it to make money. So if there stands to be a chance that they're going to lose money, they're not going to be happy about it. So I think that's where something that I'm paying very close attention to, because realistically, that's when I know that there's going to be a lot of pressure being put on them. So hopefully what we see from now is some good changes and some really good financials now that they've cleared some of that burden that the company was carrying throughout Q2 and Q1, and then be able to put in a really strong financial performance into Q3. If they can do that, I think that will put the investors and Krista, I think, in a more at ease place, financially speaking. And then we'll probably be able to see a bit more freedom and latitude given to the Wurm team to operate in line with what the community probably expects a bit more, rather than the, I don't know, the somewhat like interfering manner that we've seen over the past couple of months. So yeah, anyway, that's something that I've been keeping an eye on. I'll keep you updated as always. This has been a really, really long video talking about a very, very expensive chair. Please, if you're a Wurm player, I would implore you not to buy this. This is not something that we want to be encouraging. We want to encourage fair pricing that is not exploitative, and we want to encourage player-friendly monetization for the game. So please, if you are going to be purchasing the game, please support the game, but do so in a way that is not supporting exploitative pricing. Please consider that. So yeah, that's me, Bloody Drongo. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care. Cheers.